Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Kingsmen Sports Podcast. We've been MIA for a while. There was a lot of high school state championship for baseball going on. Then we had way more events in June than I thought we would have. But now we are back, ready to rock and roll. End of June. This will be coming out before the 1st of July, so that's the good news. We got a lot packed into this episode, all baseball today. That's all we're going for. We are going to talk about each and every division, kind of scratch the surface about what's been going on so far in the season. Also going to talk about our Dodgers Mount Rushmore. That'll be coming up on this episode. And there's even going to be our draft for teams of the month of July. We're going to throw away June. That doesn't count. We have tallied up our scores for May. We'll talk about those when we get to that segment. So baseball heavy episode. We're just going to start right away with talking about some American League divisions. Episode 33, by the way. Did I say that? Episode 33, basketball legends episode. I guess you could say Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You had Shaq, Larry Bird, Patrick Ewing, Scottie Pippen, the real face of the 90s Bulls. Just a ton of number 33 talent in the NBA. So we got to shout them out for episode 33. No chance you guys will see. Brian Wu does pitch tonight. If he wins tonight, maybe we'll re-record this intro. But for now, we're going to go with the NBA legends. Let's start talking about some baseball. We'll start with the American League. Let's start with the AL East, probably the most interesting division because there has been a lot going on as of lately in the AL East. Of course, Tampa Bay Rays still the top team in that division. Very successful start to the year, although they've kind of had that gap shrunk by the Baltimore Orioles. Those two teams have separated themselves as the top two, even though they might have not been the teams that you looked at as being in the top two. Every team in this division, though, is above 500. All of them playoff contenders. The Blue Jays have kind of just not really ever got going so far this season. Red Sox have been hot and cold. The Yankees are an interesting team because of some injuries going on right now. But I mean, Tampa and Baltimore, I think, have really solidified themselves as the top two teams in that division. I think you can pencil them both in for the playoffs. It's going to be a fun race to watch because you kind of have underdogs in different senses. You know, the Rays are kind of always overlooked, don't have those big-time superstars on their roster. And the Orioles, just a bunch of young kids going out and playing baseball. The pitching still doesn't seem to be quite there, but they're making the most of what they got, have established themselves as a legit AL contender. What are your thoughts on what you've seen from really those top two teams, the Rays and Orioles?
Really? I mean, we always complain about Manager of the Year awards, but it just seems like every year Tampa Bay just does the most with what they've got. We were talking about them this year. Are they a borderline playoff team? They kind of might have missed the boat when it came to this offseason, not really making much of a splash, almost going backwards, it seemed, as opposed to last year. One of my biggest issues was their catcher situation, and Mike Zunino getting DFA'd and Tampa doing just fine behind the plate. So, I mean, having the most wins in baseball really speaks for itself. They're just outscoring everyone that they come across. You think it has to end at some point. We were talking about, that streak to start the year, and they've doubled their wins since then. It's just crazy.
And I will also say something you pointed out on our MLB preview for the season is the injury bug that bit them last year really hasn't popped up its ugly head so far. Shane McClanahan has dealt with some issues this season, hasn't missed too much time though. But I mean, these bats, everyone's staying healthy. There's some issues going on with Wander Franco right now. I think he'll end up being okay. He's a young superstar. He'll get there. I think they probably hold off Baltimore just because I think they're going to make some big-time moves at the deadline to improve their team. They know what to do.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, managers of the years, Kevin Cash and Brandon Hyde, I mean, those two got to be the front runner when it comes to the American League. Maybe you can throw Bruce Bochy in there with the Rangers as well. Also, a team I'm going to keep my eye on is the Yankees. Aaron Judge dealing with a serious toe injury, tearing a ligament in that toe. If he's out, they are in trouble. They don't have the pitching. The pitching is beat up right now. Domingo Germán all of a sudden stinks again. Luis Severino's been really bad. If Judge is out for an extended period of time, they are toast. They're going to drop down to possibly last in this division. and it's going to be too big of a hole to dig themselves out of. So Yankees going to be a team to watch here as we close in on the All-Star break, and I think the first few weeks after to see where Judge is at.
Yeah, and we really talked about them in the beginning of the year. They've got a lot of talent on the front lines, but almost no depth, and it seems like they're feeling that. Before we even get halfway through the year, with pitching, with injuries, with everything, it just seems like they're bleeding by 1,000 paper cuts, and how much are they going to bleed out? I'm wondering. Maybe to the bottom of the list, although to be honest, I wasn't expecting Boston to be over 500 at this point in the year. So does that start to slip? They're dealing with their own injuries and pitching situations. I don't know. That really, I'm curious to see where the bottom of that division falls with how much success even the bottom of that division seems to be having right now.
And a team we didn't really talk about, Toronto Blue Jays. I mean, they're still in it for sure. I think they need to go out and get a pitcher at the deadline. There's some of them that we'll talk about here in a little bit from a certain team in the AL East that's been just horrendous. Yes. We'll talk about those. I think Toronto out of starting pitching, you're right back in that race.
If you're in fourth place in your division and still number one, number two in the wild card race, you're still doing okay. You there's no problems there, but they want to pick it up. They want to be at the top of that division where they saw themselves at the beginning of the year.
Let's move to the AL West, the division you and I pay most attention to, of course. Texas in first place right now, 5 games ahead of both Houston and the Los Angeles Angels, 8.5 ahead of the Mariners, and then there's the A's who are already out of it, of course. Rangers, I think, everyone looked at him and thought this team could be good. I don't know if anyone saw them being this good. The pitching has been sensational. John Gray's been unbelievable. Nathan Eovaldi's been unbelievable. Martin Perez right up there. He's been really, really good. They're doing this all without Jacob deGrom, but it's the offense that's really leading the way. Marcus Semien looks unbelievable. Corey Seager dealing with some injuries, but since he's come back, he's been unbelievable. Nathaniel Lowe, been really good. Jonah, I mean, everyone 1 through 9 in that order, you can't take a single batter off. There's no easy outs in that lineup. They're a really, really pesky team. I think they can still strengthen that bullpen. I think that's going to be their go-to area of need at the trade deadline. But I think they've got the weapons to trade for some of those guys that can really make this team a legit World Series contender if they're not already.
Yeah, I'll say it again. I said it a few episodes back, but what did we talk about last year? You said, and I quote, they've got the bats, they need pitching help, and they need a competent coach. And that's exactly what they went out and got this offseason. And it is paying dividends. They are just, everything is falling into place exactly as they had it planned. That defense is solid. I mean, you look at the lineup 1 through 9, and it's not like there's a few guys on our team that I'm like, please don't hit the ball to them right now. I know you might disagree with me on that, but I swear it happens often. Just good at every side of the ball right now. You're right. The pitching could use some reinforcements, especially with deGrom being out. But they're hurt for pitching probably the least out of this division right now. Everything just seems to be going their way.
Let's kind of lump in the next 2 teams, Houston and Los Angeles. The Astros seem to just kind of be hanging around, biding their time. I don't know if they've got they obviously don't have the depth that they once had that made them able to survive these injuries. The lineup is much less potent than it ever has been before. The rotation is still strong as long as it is those 5 guys that they need out there. Haven't been, though. Luis Garcia, we haven't seen him in months. They have some issues when it comes to starting pitching. Their bullpen's still strong. Still a very, very dangerous team. Another team that could be looking to add one of those starting pitchers on the market. And then you've got the Angels, who are being carried by really one guy. I mean, Mike Trout's having a down year. He's still having a good year, but for Mike Trout, it's a down year. Shohei Ohtani is ridiculous. The rest of the rotation has been pretty decent, honestly. They haven't been too bad. Bullpen's been really, really strong, especially on that back end. The question just still remains is, when's it going to happen? When are the Angels going to remember that they're the Angels and fall back? I had them sneaking into a wild card. Seeing them this year, have actually diminished those hopes for me. I shouldn't say hopes, diminished that prediction for me a little bit. But I mean, those two teams, it feels like are the same but different because of just the Astros. I think that they're going to put it together because they always have. And the Angels, I think they're going to collapse because they always have.
See, and I'm almost right there in the opposite. Well, I it might be biasness, but I feel like both of them are going to crash. It's just a matter of when. With Houston, they are one more season-ending injury away from being done. When it comes to that rotation, when it comes to that lineup, it just seems like their guys are getting hurt. Little stints on the IL constantly. You're right. They don't have the depth to be able to rotate in additional guys to stop that bleeding. I feel like we thought they had 1 or 2 more years left before they weren't that team anymore. I think they hit that point quietly at the beginning of this year. I don't think that they did enough in the offseason to be able to keep the glue together of what they currently have. When it comes to the Angels, there's no way that Shohei Ohtani can finish the season leading in batting and pitching, right? There's no way. I don't know. He seems to be proving me wrong month after month. I figured one of the two pieces would have to average out. Even still, they do have to remember that they're the Angels. They have to remember it doesn't matter what Shohei Ohtani does the rest of this year. He's not coming back. There's no way around it. If somebody, I'm looking at one of the desperate teams that needs to turn it around right now. If somebody offers the farm for a half of a year of Ohtani, Angels above 500, Angels in that wild card race, are they at a point where they would say, yep, take it because we know we're not getting more than 2 months out of him?
I don't think so. I think their GM, he's been on the record saying he's not trading Shohei Ohtani because he doesn't want to be that guy. And that was when, they're coming into this season with very low hopes. No one really expected too much for him. Now that they're in the wild card race, I mean, Jacob, right now, they sit just half a game out of the wild card race. There is no thought to trading Shohei Ohtani right now. If they can get to the playoffs, because in their minds, they believe that they can still re-sign him. Everyone outside of the Anaheim organization knows that they can't. But if you're in the Angels front office, you got to at least hope that you can. Maybe you catch a hot streak. I mean, if they go get super hot, win a World Series, I don't think that happens. I'm just saying, what if crazier things have happened, like when the Nats did it? You can't trade Shohei Ohtani if you are still in a position to reach the playoffs.
Oh, I feel like having even a 95% chance of him walking away at the end of the year and you getting nothing for it, that is a worse look on a GM than getting some people would pay. People would pay the prospects, even MLB ready prospects, in order to have him in their offseason lineup and rotation.
So can I ask you, what teams do you think would be willing?
My mind right now goes to the Mets because they are needing to put out a fire. They know they had the talent that they needed and it is not producing and jobs are on the line. I could see them spending the money and the players in order to try to right that ship before it gets too far gone. I'm also sorry, go ahead.
The Mets, when it comes to them, 16 games out of first place in the division right now, 8.5 out of the wild card. Is that worth selling everything for half of a year when it might not make a difference? I don't think Shohei Ohtani turns that team into a playoff team. I think there are way too many issues.
The difference with the Mets is then he's already on your team. You are first in line talking to him about coming back the next year. If he goes to a team like the Mets or the big market teams like that on the East Coast, they understand it's not just 2 months. It's a 60+% chance of bringing him back, extending that. That's definitely part of the factor.
I completely buy into the fact he wants to stay on the West Coast. I'm 100% sold on that. I don't think the Mets or Yankees have a shot. He wants to stay on the West Coast. People aren't thinking about this. It's closer to home for him. It's the only place he doesn't want to. You're on the East Coast. He's literally on the other side of the world from his family.
Matthew, if
they're not
you
going to
are
be seeing
14 hours away compared to 17 hours away, that's nothing. That is
what
nothing.
are the Mets going to offer him that the Dodgers aren't? Nothing. Whatever the Mets offer, the Dodgers are going to match.
Like
so if you're Ohtani, you're going to.
Next year, you're right. Next year, you're right. This year, the Mets would offer the Angels more than the Dodgers would.
Oh yeah, I don't think the Dodgers are going to try to trade for him because I think the Dodgers believe that they can land him in free agency. I believe they're probably the favorite to do so.
Yeah.
But if you're Ohtani, would you choose the Mets over the Dodgers? Because he knows. I get that that the Angels right now, and then hypothetically, if the Mets traded for him, they're first in line to talk to him. Ohtani knows that everyone wants him. He knows he's not just going to jump into a contract because, oh, this is the team I'm with for 2 months or whatever it may be. He knows that there's teams loading up the trucks, dropping off multiple trucks loaded with money. We have no idea what he's going to actually get offered from teams. Ohtani isn't going to rush into anything just because it's a first team in line.
But we have also seen the audacity of the Mets checkbook. When it comes to, I want to spend whatever money I want on a player, they are breaking the unwritten rules of baseball owners right now and just saying, I'm signing everybody. Everybody. The Dodgers, yes, they have the money to spend, but they at least have some sort of restraint. Hey, 5-6 years from now, this is going to affect us. What are we seeing long term?
I think the Dodgers are seeing Shohei Ohtani finishing his career as a Dodger. Whatever contract Ohtani signs, it's probably going to run to the end of his career.
If he wants it to, he could stay 3-4 years and say, look, I am me. There is nobody else like me. Wait and see what the market's like in 3-4 years, and I'm going to set another record-breaking contract then. I mean, for him, in Japan, he's already bigger than Ichiro. That was like God level. He's already made it. What does he want to do now? I don't know. I don't know his goals for baseball other than to win championships.
I think he wants a World Series. I think that's the only thing he hasn't. I mean, he's won World Baseball Classic, won MVP, hasn't won a Cy Young yet. Maybe that'll change at the end of this season. Those will be a dime a
dozen by the time he's done with his career. I mean,
I think it all comes down to championships, but I also, I mean, the Mets right now, after all that money that they spent under 500, the Dodgers offloaded a ton of money this offseason, sitting at 43 and 34. So, I mean, I think another thing that it might come down to, this might sound ridiculous. Does anyone really want to play in front of Mets fans when they have so many other options? It's not a happy place to be right now, right? They are miserable.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on because we're going to get into it with another team coming up because now we're talking about the Mariners. We're not going to talk about Oakland. We feel bad for them. They're moving to Vegas more than likely. I hope that something still falls through when they stay in Oakland. We'll see, though. Let's talk about the Mariners. You want to talk about a team that's just treading water? Look no further than the Seattle Mariners. They're in a very interesting spot right now. They've dealt with some injuries pitching-wise. Robbie Ray, of course, couldn't ever really get going, only pitched a couple of innings this season. Marco Gonzalez was a strong number 5 starter until he went down. We'll see what happens when he comes back because Brian Wu has been, outside of that first start, he's been pretty good for the Mariners as well. But, of course, I'm sure they'd like to have that lefty in there, which is why I still give Marco the slight edge. Everyone else, I mean, Luis Castillo, he's had bumpy outings as of late, still an ERA under 3. George Kirby and Logan Gilbert have been hot and cold, hit or miss. Bryce Miller's been pretty much really, really good since he's coming up.
A fresh call-up as good as you could hope for.
when he struggled in Double A and never pitched in Triple A, for this guy to go, yeah, I'm right there with you. It comes down to the lineup right now. Yeah. Really, for the Mariners, the bullpen's been pretty strong, especially with Munoz back, and Trevor Gott has been activated today.
Munoz pitching yesterday. I was worried when he came out of the game, but just said headaches and not feeling good. So I was happy to see him pitch yesterday.
And Trevor Gott's coming back. He was a ridiculous reliever while Munoz was out. He slid into that role and looked really, really good. Comes down to the bats right now. Teoscar Hernandez seems to have turned it around. He is hitting the ball really, really well right now. Ty France continues to just be Ty France. Julio has kind of taken a little bit of pressure off. He's starting to trend in the right direction. Gino's hitting for a little bit more power. Cal Raleigh. Strikeouts, man. Strikeouts are a massive issue for this team right now. And when you strike out a lot, you have to hit a lot of home runs. Mariners really haven't done that this year. And in the words of our grandfather, Jacob, even I know they're throwing a slider with 2 strikes, and yet they still chase it. Exact quote from him. It's a serious problem right now. J.P. Crawford, unbelievable at the top of the order. But yeah, they got to cut down on strikeouts. You got to put the ball in play, especially with runners in scoring position. Don't try to do too much. Just get that ball in play and see what happens.
Yeah, it really seems like it's feast or famine. It seems like other day we scored 2 runs in like the second inning and then went hitless for the next 6 innings. You've got to have a bit of consistency there. You've got to get runners on, and you've got to get them across the plate when you do. There's just so many missed opportunities when it comes to the Mariners right now. You didn't mention his name, but Colton Wong is doing a little better over the last couple of weeks.
I'm glad you put that out there.
He's not forgiven, but he's solid. I mean, the at-bats, the defense even has been solid. JP has been phenomenal at the top of the order.
MVP of the team.
I have been saying for 4.5 years, why does he not pull the ball? He keeps slapping it and loses all of his power. Somebody else must have told him that.
Yeah. And Shift Gun has changed his game. I think that's a big reason.
Yeah, that I'll take it. I'll take it because he is hitting with so much power. He's probably, I haven't looked this stat up, but I bet he's got more home runs this year than he does complete years past.
Close.
Yeah. Even when it's not going over the fence, he's had a couple of triples that hit the top of the fence, like the literal top corner of the fence. Just he's hitting the ball well, he's hitting the ball hard, and he's being smart when it comes to his at-bats. Even his outs are 9, 10, 11 pitch outs. Cannot say enough good things about that kid right now. When it comes to the bottom of the order, we have said for the last few years, you cannot have those dead innings. That really is either a great day where the bottom of the order carries us and we score 10, 12 runs, or they were those automatic outs, went back to the dugout, and we wasted 3, 4 innings of nothingness and have 2 hits the entire day. There's been nothing in between.
And I will say, Mike Ford seems to be hitting better than I've ever seen him hit at the major league level. Hopefully that continues. Had a couple of hits yesterday that weren't home runs, which was nice to see since 6 of his 8 hits had been home runs. Still want to see Dylan Moore get going as well. When it comes down to it, to see if this team, I don't think they're going to be sellers at the deadline because, again, I think the Yankees are about to crash and burn with Aaron Judge being out. I still don't buy. I have some issues with the Angels, and like you point out, the Astros aren't a shoo-in anymore. I think this team still buys. If they do for some reason opt to sell, I only see one guy who really is going to probably go, and that'd be Teoscar Hernandez.
Everyone else, Gino.
I still think with the way Gino's played this year, I don't know if anyone really wants to take on that contract. You're going to have to throw something else in there. Remember, it was Gino and Jesse Winker. Winker was the guy Mariners wanted, not the guy they ended up wanting.
Right.
You're still going to have to pack some, which is why I see Gino probably staying.
Yeah.
especially with him being under team control. But Teoscar is the
I
only
don't know.
one.
I don't know, because Gino almost fills that role of the veteran, power hitter that teams really seem to go for down the stretch. A bench player that you can put in that is spooky when he's walking up. I feel like teams won't need him to do as much if they're looking for a Gino compared to if they're looking for Teoscar or somebody who's like, okay, you're the guy, you're the fixing piece, you're gonna take us to that next level.
But I will also add, there's plenty of good power veterans out there that are going to come a lot cheaper.
Why couldn't we get any?
Andrew McCutcheon,
I would love him.
will likely be available. Carlos Santana on his team might be available. We'll have to see where the Phillies are exactly at, and the Red Sox. They've got some power hitters that could become available. I'm sure Jose Abreu isn't going anywhere, unfortunately, because boy, that was a bad signing for the Astros in hindsight. But there's so many good veteran power hitters that are going to come cheaper, where you're not going to have that bigger contract on them, and probably not have to give up as much either.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's going to be, again, I don't think they're going to be sellers. I think they'll end up buying small.
I also think Jerry's really starting to see pressure, because 2023, he said, was target year. 2022 was great, but you want to keep moving in the right direction. And I feel like if we start slipping, he's going to feel that noose tightening, and he's going to need to, okay, I need to make some moves, or people are going to start talking.
You know what would also buy him some time? A Shohei Ohtani in the offseason. But we'll see what happens when he
that's not going to happen.
Is it, though?
It's not. It's not.
Isn't
we
it?
had a better chance 5-6 years ago.
Because 5-6 years ago, everyone said he's not going to the Angels. Went to the Angels.
Yeah, everyone thought he was coming here. We thought he was coming here.
Well, we drank the Kool-Aid for sure. Everyone was drinking the Kool-Aid. The Angels weren't even on the radar, and they snagged him up. So we'll see what happens when it comes to that. But
that
yeah,
was
I
when
think there's
we had
definitely
other Japanese players. Now we don't.
Which apparently scared him away. He wanted to create his own Japanese legacy with his team. He's been on record saying that. So
well, we're Nintendo, so that's not going to happen.
We are Nintendo. Maybe he changed his mind now. We'll see. All right, there's the AL West. We're going to speed run the AL Central because this division's a disaster. They have one team 500, and they are 500. Twins 40-40 lead that division. Everyone's pretty much in except for the Royals, who I tried to sell some stock in before the season. I looked like an idiot right about now with that. I still like Cleveland. I think Cleveland has the best rotation, which I think will end up propelling them. But the Twins are a much better team than I gave them credit for. Detroit and Chicago are a mess. Chicago, I think, is the most interesting team in this division because what do they sell at the deadline? Do they sell at the deadline? Because they're only 6 out of first place. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on in their GM's head. I never do. We always try to predict this. Everyone tries to predict it, and we never get it right. We just don't know what's going on with the White Sox. But there's a lot of attractive pieces. Lucas Giolito is going to be a free agent after this year. Lance Lynn's going to be a free agent after this year. Tim Anderson's going to be a free. There's so many guys that are very, very good baseball players that you could go get. So I'm with you. I think that they sell. I think that they should sell. I think they really need to just hit the reset button on that organization. But man, it's frustrating to watch a team with so much talent just continuously be below average.
Oh, we were talking about White Sox. Sorry.
Hey, we made the playoffs last year.
True.
You watch yourself.
Not too much to say about the AL Central. Just the absolute opposite of AL East. Everyone above 500, everyone below 500. There is 7 other teams that if they were in this division, they'd be in first place.
I got it. 8.
Yeah, 8. Yep, 8 teams. I don't understand what's going on with Cleveland right now, and I feel like they have to turn it around, but I've been saying that. You picked them for our last month's draft. I mean, they have so much young talent. They have so much. It's just not coming together for them. Detroit is actually doing. I mean, third place is better. I don't know about the record, but the other teams in that division are just so terrible right now that I guess by process of elimination, they get third place. So yeah, not too much to say. Everyone's just. It would not surprise me if there were 4 different sellers in that division, even at trade deadline.
I'd be curious to see what the Twins' thoughts would be if they would like to take back that Luis Ariz trade, because he's been pretty good and the
I
rest of the
feel like
rotation
they
has been pretty
would.
good
Yeah,
outside of
no,
Pablo. It's a very interesting one to look at because
I
I know the Marlins wouldn't want to. We'll talk about them here in a
I
little bit, but
feel like
everyone stepped up for the
any
Twins.
team would have traded for Arias. I mean, just whatever the never mind.
Especially a team that traded to get a starting pitcher. The rest of the rotation stepped up, looked really good, and then their offense is floundered. So that's an interesting one to look back on right now. I think it's the Twins and Guardians that are going to battle it out for the division. I don't think there'll be 4 sellers. I think there's 3 sellers. If the Tigers even technically sell, I don't know exactly what they have to sell really right now since they're in a youth movement. But yeah, they're not buyers, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And then the White Sox and Royals will trade whatever they can. I don't think Salvador Perez will stay a Royal for the rest of the season. That's pretty much all that they have to trade. All right, that wraps up the American League. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to step aside, and when we come back, we'll go division by division in the National League. Probably won't take as long because there's no Shohei Ohtani or Mariners in the National League. We'll talk about the NL coming up next year on the Kingsmen Sports Podcast.
There are many ways for businesses to expand their customer base, but one of the tried and true ways of increasing customer loyalty and recognizing employees is to put your name and logo on promotional and motivational items. You can find a wide selection at Alderson's Awards West Printwares in Centralia. Shirts, hats, coats, mugs, pens, and more, all with high-quality screen printing or embroidery done on site. For a full catalog of items at great prices, go to aldersons.net, and remember, you will get maximum impact at Awards West Printwares.
Athletes, the time is now to get serious about improving yourself to reach your goals. We all know that college recruiters and professional scouts put a lot of importance on those tangible measurements, such as a 40 time, your vertical leap, cone drills, and so on. Proactive Physical Therapy in Tumwater has a special, unique training program that will improve your results across the board. If you are serious about raising your performance to the next level, you need to talk with the pros today at Proactive Physical Therapy. Check them out online or call for an appointment today.
Welcome back to the Kingsmen Sports Podcast. I am Matthew King, got Jacob Sullivan still hanging out. Let's talk about the National League, starting with the NL East. A division I didn't think that the standings would look exactly like they are. First and last, we both nailed, I'm pretty sure, thinking back on it. Everything in between has just been a jumbled mess. Right now, the Braves 6.5 up on Miami in second place. Philadelphia 10.5 back. The Mets 16 games back. And the Nats all the way back there in last 21. We won't really talk about the Nats too much. Similar situation with, say, the Royals and the A's. The Braves, though, I mean, this looks like the clear-cut best team in the National League to me. I get Arizona. The Dodgers look good, but I think they're not even close to Atlanta. I think Atlanta is a comfortable pick to get to the World Series right now, which has me, slapping myself for not picking them to win the World Series. Had them losing instead, but this team looks so good. Ronald Acuna Jr. is playing to the level we all anticipated. Matt Olson looks good. Sean Murphy's been unbelievable hitting for them. Pitching injuries have been a little bit of an issue, but so far their offense is so good that it doesn't really matter, especially in a weak division.
Yeah, no, it seems like everyone coming back on that team is exceeding what they were doing last year, and all of the new pieces seem to be fitting right in how they're wanting it to. I mean, second best record in baseball, I suppose, after Tampa, but they didn't have the ridiculous hot start as Tampa did. So I feel like overall, much stronger team, to be honest.
In second place, Miami, a team we just kind of talked about with the Twins. I think it was a home run trade for them. They needed offense. They got a guy who can provide offense. Also, they've gotten a little bit more pop. They have some young pitchers.
Pitching, but I guess that's kind of struggling a little bit.
I'm glad you brought that up. Sandy Alcantara is having a down year, especially compared to what he did last year. I have faith that he can turn around. But they have a lot of young guys who they're worried about having to shut down because they're getting up to inning limits or limits that they thought they wouldn't even come close to for the entire season. And we're still in June. Ari Perez, one of those guys, they're talking about potentially shutting him down. And again, we're in the summer months. So I don't think that Miami can keep this going. I think the most interesting thing watching them will be, can Luis Arias crack 400 when the season comes to an end? The Mariners really didn't help him out with a big goose egg in that series. But I think that's the most interesting.
13 was it?
I think it was 0 for 12 because I think he had like a sack fly or something that prevented.
Okay.
Yeah, it was 0 for. First number was a 0.
Yeah.
I think they end up tailing off personally. I just don't see them hanging around. I think they could end up selling some guys. So Jorge Soler would look nice somewhere else, but they've been fun. They've shown their potential. The future is bright, but I just don't think the future is now when it comes to Miami. For Philadelphia, I'm very optimistic about this team because they stayed right in it with Trey Turner playing bad. Without Bryce Harper, the rotation hasn't looked good. I've got faith and confidence that this team can still kind of turn it around. I think Trey Turner is going to end up figuring it out. He's going to play like Trey Turner. He's way too good of a baseball player to not. I have a lot of confidence in this lineup. The rotation, I'm less confident in, but I still think the combo of Nola and Wheeler can do enough to help this team at least compete for a wild card. I think they end up second in the division. The Mets, man, they're baffling. I get that they spent a lot of money, but they didn't spend it on the right guys. Verlander's look bad. Scherzer's been beat up. This team's got some serious issues, especially when Pete Alonso's out of the lineup. When he got hurt, was out for a while. And the back end of the bullpen without Edwin Diaz is just a mess. So I think that the Mets are pretty much cooked. I think they're done for this season. But good news, New York, you got football season to look forward to, I guess. That's all I have to say about the Mets.
I was seeing online, people were just ripping Buck Showalter a new one. Just like, how can you put him in these high leverage situations when we have so-and-so in the bullpen? And I'm looking at their bullpen roster and I'm like, I'm sorry, who do you want instead? Like
Paul Sewald.
That I don't think Mets are calling for him quite yet.
you ask them and they probably say yes right about now.
I think that they're all really wanting Eddie D. And I've heard he might return a little sooner than expected, but if they're, 70 and 90, are you going to? Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I kind of lost a little bit of faith in the Mets at the beginning of the year during the World Baseball Classic. Immediately thereafter, it's like some rich guy at the roulette table just putting it all on the inside bets, and then 0 hits, and it's like, well, that was a pretty table that you made there, but it's all coming undone very quickly. Philly, they had some scary injuries at the very beginning of the year too. They really seemed to have risen above it, risen above it, and they're looking okay. Miami, I'm kind of right there with you. I don't think they're going to finish in second place, but I don't think they're going to be sellers. I think they're going to say, wow, we have the pieces, what we need to do. We're going to build off that next year. I think that even if they finish 5 to 10 games above 500, I think they're going to call that a win this year, and they're going to look to the future because they have a lot of really young guys that they're going to be able to develop if they go out and they get the pieces to complement it. And then Washington, I mean, you said it, they lost all hope in the middle of last year for the next few years to come. So there's not too much to talk about there.
I will say that the Washington Nationals announcers, not big fans of country roads. I will tell you that much, especially after last night. We're not enjoying it.
You know who is a big fan of country roads? And I don't know if you saw this because, well, you were at the game.
I was there.
Did you see Rick Rizz's video?
I heard Rick Riz. I didn't see a video. He was loving it too.
Yes.
It
he was making Sims blush. He was.
As someone who's at the game, it was a grand time last
Yeah.
night. It was good vibes for
You
Gino
didn't
and
know
the
that
rest of
the electric factory was fueled off of country music, did you?
Exactly. Hey, the Mariners used to have a minor league team in West Virginia, the Power.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's where it all stems from. All right, let's move on from the NL East. Let's head to, I think, the most interesting division in all of baseball, the NL Central.
Yep.
And I say that because you can convince me any of these 5 teams win the division. Every team except for one has led the division at some point, and the one team that hasn't was the team everyone unanimously thought would win the division in St. Louis. They're in last place. They're only 8.5 back. The Brewers are now in first place, half a game ahead of Cincinnati, 3 ahead of the Cubs, 5.5 ahead of the Pirates, who are in free fall mode and still right there, and 8.5 ahead of the Cardinals. There's no team I trust in this division. There's no team I can write off in this division as of right now. If you made me write one off, it'd probably be Pittsburgh, just because I haven't been a fan of this pitching staff the entire year, and especially with O'Neal Cruz done for the year. The Cardinals, I should write off, but I can't because there's just so much talent still on that team. The Cubs, Marcus Stroman looking pretty good, looking like an NL Cy Young contender. If that hits, I'll never bet again because I won't outdo that. The Reds, though, I think are probably the team to keep your eye on because they're so young, which means they're naive and they believe that they can win it. That is dangerous, especially with Ellie De La Cruz. This guy is unbelievable. He's already
fun.
hit for the cycle. It's been a few
fun.
weeks, beating out ground balls to first base for base hits. They're a fun team. They're not selling. Stop throwing in Alexis Diaz in these hypothetical trade packages. If they did that, take the team away. Cincinnati doesn't deserve a team anymore. I shouldn't say Cincinnati. That owner doesn't deserve a team anymore. They're, I think, the team that is in the best spot. Although Milwaukee, I think, might be a piece away. They need offense. Pitching's good. That bullpen's really good. They just do not hit at all. I really like Craig Counsell as a manager. Might be the best manager in that division, thinking through them all. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say he is. So I think you can't write off Milwaukee, obviously. I don't think there's a World Series contender coming out of this division, but this is a fun division to watch coming down the stretch.
See, and I think the Reds are going to sober up and see, oh, whoa, can we really be doing this, and kind of slow down a little bit. There's no way that this can continue. They almost are direct opposite trajectories of the Pirates right now. Pirates were that young team that coming out the gate, they had a couple players, maybe rookie of the year contenders, and then adversity happens and kind of fizzling. Reds are fun to watch. Don't get me wrong. I'm loving it. I'm loving the highlights.
Viking cape and helmet.
Absolutely. But I don't think they're going to be able to maintain. Out of all of those teams in that division that I have faith over the next 70 games, give me the Cubs. That is probably the oldest team of that division right now. Looking at, especially if you're looking star power, oldest lineup. They know what it takes to win. They know what it takes to win through the long season. Give me Chicago. Milwaukee, they find themselves in first place. They're fixing to fall apart. They're another one that this is like their last year of even being close to contention, and then they're about to fall apart. I don't see them being in first again after a couple weeks from now. And then St. Louis, there's a lot of talent there. They're going to get a lot more wins this season, but they're going to run out of time and figure, okay, we're not doing anything with this season. What do we do to make up for it for our futures? I feel like they are going to have to sell. They have the players to sell. The players that teams want from them are the ones that they can keep for 5, 6, 7 years. But what are you going to be able to get for that? I don't know. I feel like St. Louis is going to be looking at their future a lot more than this year with just how terrible of a start they've had.
I will echo just one thing you said with the Cubs. They got Dansby Swanson and Cody Bellinger. Both been there. Both have won a World Series. Know what it takes to get the job done. So that is some leadership that you have on that team that can kind of motivate the younger guys that they do have as well. So fun division to watch. Maybe not the best baseball, but an interesting division to watch right now. Let's go to the NL West. And this division's fascinating as well. The Arizona Diamondbacks on top of the division, 2.5 ahead of San Francisco, 3 ahead of the Dodgers, 9.5 ahead of San Diego, 16.5 ahead of Colorado, who's pretty much, you can stick a fork in them. They're not doing anything this year. The Diamondbacks seem to be the team taking the most advantage out of these pitch clock rules. They're stealing a lot of bases, the stolen bases back, and the Diamondbacks are capitalizing on it. This team is very good, although I still worry that the Dodgers and Giants are both lurking there. The Giants kind of just stormed their way up the standings out of nowhere. Big win streak. They look pretty good. They have some veterans on that team that can get the job done. I'll be interested to see if they really think that they can go for it, if they buy, or if they're kind of cautious buyers, maybe just stand pat. It'll be interesting to see what the Giants do. Dodgers are obviously probably going to make a move or two to try and put themselves over the top. They know they're still in their World Series window. And again, I'm not writing them off. Their starting pitching's dealt with a ton of injuries. Some young guys have stepped up. If they can get this rotation semi-healthy, these guys performing like we know they can, I still think this division is going to end up being theirs. I still have them winning it. Diamondbacks, though, man, you want to talk about a fun team to watch. They've got it all. They got a bunch of studs up and down this lineup, some really, really fun pitchers to watch. I think they've been probably the biggest surprise, honestly, out of any team in baseball.
Yeah. I mean, they have most likely, I won't say most likely, they'll have
the rookie of the year. I'll say it.
I wasn't gonna, but
I'll say
yeah.
it. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's looking that way. They have a past rookie of the year, Kyle Lewis, doing pretty decent things on that team. It's fun. It's fun to watch a team that. Did you have them 5th in the division at the beginning of the year?
I might have had them 4th. It was a distance 4th if I did have them 4th.
Okay.
Yeah. Either way, it was well below everyone else.
Had to have had them above Colorado. I had them, I think, above San Francisco, but still just a shocking. Wow, they just keep doing it. I was looking at our notes that we had from the May draft, and it's reading it. Okay, they've been fun to watch at the beginning of the year, but I can't pick them because they're not going to keep that up in May. They kept it up in May. They kept it up in June. They are looking like a complete ball team.
And I'll say, you were talking about Corbin Carroll. He has a legit chance to be Rookie of the Year and MVP. He has been that good. He actually has a chance. I don't think he gets it done because Acuna's been just remarkable. But Corbin Carroll, this guy's the real deal.
Yeah. Corbin Carroll, fantastic. San Francisco is just a complete enigma because I don't know what they're doing right, but it's working. So I guess keep it up. Good job. I don't know. I don't think they're going to be able to. I think San Diego. Wow. They just, I don't know. San Francisco, I think they'll be 4th in the division by the end of the year. I don't see them keeping this up. Dodgers, they're going to fix it, whether it's internally, whether they bring in reinforcements, they're going to figure it out. They are still one of the best teams in baseball. And then San Diego, not as shocking as the Mets, but close to it. I mean, they spent a lot of money. They traded some good young players and brought in who they thought were the answers. I mean, you've got Tatis back playing well. You've got Soto. You've got Bogarts that you went out, you spent a lot of money on. You've got Machado, who you were able to re-sign. I thought that they had the pieces to put it together, and it does not seem like that's the case. And those are all offensive guys, but their pitching has been solid. I mean, their pitching hasn't been letting them down by any means. So I don't know. I don't know what it takes. I feel like they they're right there around 500. I feel like they're going to figure it out, but they aren't looking like the World Series champ that I had them at this year. That's for sure.
Yeah, so far your World Series prediction looks like a mess with what's been going on so far this season. But yeah,
both below 500.
We talk about the Padres kind of being out of it. They're 6.5 out of a wild card. So, I mean, that's still within striking distance, especially you and I agree Miami and San Francisco probably aren't going to hold those wild cards for too much longer. I think you can pretty much say Atlanta, Arizona, and the Dodgers are going to be playoff teams. I don't see any of them falling off enough, especially Atlanta. Atlanta, go ahead and write etch in stone. They're going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way about the Dodgers. Diamondbacks, I saw your face. I can see it, but
that was the one
still,
where
I feel confident that they're going to make the playoffs. They have a sizable cushion, and they get to play the Rockies quite a bit still to come. So
fair.
Everyone
that
else really has a chance to make. The Rockies and Nationals are the teams that I say no way they're not making it. Everyone else, I mean, I don't know if you go in to try and get that wild card. There are teams that definitely should not. There's going to be 2 wild cards really up for grabs. So that's going to be fascinating to watch in the NL as well.
Yeah. And especially teams like Arizona or even Pittsburgh, where it's like, hey, we might get some extra draft picks because we're playing the season right. We're going to have, young players. I don't know. Let me tell you, the biggest opponent to Corbin Carroll right now for Rookie of the Year, Ellie De La Cruz.
Yeah, but Ryan, Corbin Carroll's just insane.
When
you get those extra months, it's almost impossible for Ellie De La Cruz.
If you're looking at stats, yes, but that's not all they look at. So
I'll say it reminds me of the Julio Rodriguez versus Adley Rutschman last year. Very similar. Very similar. And Julio Rodriguez ran away with Rookie of the Year. So we still see, if the Diamondbacks get to the playoffs, you have to give it to Corbin Carroll.
Oh, yes. Yes, I agree. But
yeah, you're right. Ellie De La Cruz is probably second.
I mean, if Cincinnati does, that is the definition. I'm not saying he'll get it, but that is the definition of most valuable player. If your team is a dumpster fire and you get called up and they somehow make it to the playoffs, that is the definition of player value. Now, he won't get it, but Rookie of the Year?
You heard it here. Jacob Sullivan, Ellie De La Cruz, most valuable player.
Put $1 on that bet line and just see what happens.
Yeah, do it. Everyone do it. And if it doesn't work out, come back and blame Jacob for your $1 loss. All right, that's going to do it for our MLB kind of catch up, I guess we can call it, since we've been so long. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to continue to talk about the Dodgers, but we're going to talk about the past Dodgers. We're going to have our LA/Brooklyn Dodgers/groomsmen, whatever you want to call them. The LA Dodgers/Brooklyn Dodgers, Mount Rushmore. It's really what it's going to come down to. Break down the top 4 Dodgers of all time. That's coming up next here on the Kingsmen Sports Podcast. Welcome back to the Kingsmen Sports Podcast. It is time for our newest Mount Rushmore edition, I guess is what I could say. I sometimes stumble over words. But we are going to talk about the top 4 Dodgers of all time. We're going to go back, of course, to the Brooklyn Dodgers. We're going to talk about some LA Dodgers. That's pretty much where we're going to live in this Mount Rushmore.
Coast to coast. Very,
exactly.
very restrictive.
Exactly. So we're going to go ahead and start with a no-brainer. This one is the easiest call I think we've ever had in a Mount Rushmore. Number one's going to be Jackie Robinson because of everything he did for the game of baseball. No one's affected our sport, the sport we love, more than Jackie Robinson. And he was a very good player while doing it. Hit 311, 409, 474 with a slash line with the Dodgers, 137 home runs, 734 RBIs, walked 740 times, 1,518 hits. This is in a very short career as well because he got such a late start, of course, due to breaking the color barrier. There are so many guys on our Mount Rushmore series that aren't even baseball players if it wasn't for Jackie Robinson. So when you just look at what he did for the game and how he did it, he was always a gentleman on the baseball field when he didn't have to be. I mean, the things that were said to him are just horrendous. Only guy who has his number universally retired in the game of baseball. Again, I just love learning something new about him every single year on Jackie Robinson Day. Baseball is not what we know it to be without Jackie Robinson. And I'll say it again, no one single player has affected the game more so than Jackie Robinson.
Yeah, I was just telling you at the break, has to be on the MLB Mount Rushmore. He, without exaggeration, changed the game more than anyone ever did. Guy who invented curveball, guy who invented the switch hitter, the bunt. I mean, Jackie made baseball what it is today. The ridiculous stats aside, he won Rookie of the Year when almost no one in the league wanted him to, at least when he was starting out. He won some people over very quickly. Won an MVP, 7 All-Star game appearances, a batting title, and helped Brooklyn win their first World Series championship. Like you said, his number is universally retired. We celebrate him every single year. That's something they've thought about doing for a couple other players. Stop it. That is so black and white what he did. I mean, that's what it is. He is one of the fathers of the game. It's just incredible what he was able to, how many lives he was able to affect. One side stat that I noticed and actually raised my eyebrow about, only 72 hit by pitches. I thought that would have been a lot higher going through what he went through at the time. He really did win people over. I mean, he went to people where they were at and he converted them by showing them the better way to be. It's just incredible.
Made people better.
He did. He really did. He made people better. He made America better. He made baseball better. He made the world better. Yeah.
Not very many professional athletes can say that.
Right.
And really, there's no argument against them.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Unbelievable. No doubter there. That was the easiest one we've ever had. Another very easy one on the Dodgers Mount Rushmore is where we will move to next. Sandy Koufax, one of the greatest pitchers of all time, arguably the greatest left-handed pitcher in the history of the sport. 165 career wins with the Dodgers, a 2.76 ERA with them, 1.106 whip, 2,396 strikeouts, 137 complete games. Again, complete games were different back then. Only 4th in franchise history in strikeouts, 6th in wins, because his career was cut short. Only lasted 12 seasons because of arthritis in his left elbow. This dude, if he could have pitched a full career, he blows away some MLB records. There's no question in my mind. He was still in his prime when he was forced to retire. He was, I mean, when people say you have the left arm of God, that kind of leads you to lofty expectations. He made the most of them. He was unbelievable. If you ask a lot of baseball fans, they go back and see a single pitcher from all time, a vast majority are probably going to say they want to see Sandy Koufax. His name's synonymous with the Dodgers. Even after retiring, he stuck around to help the Dodgers. I know we don't put too much into that, but that's just kind of the cherry on top of the sundae in what was a Hall of Fame career, a once-in-a-lifetime career. Sandy Koufax, another no-brainer.
And those stats are even more incredible when you think about, well, it was cut short so quickly with his arm injury, but he was doing a lot of that in maximum amounts of pain. But at the beginning of his career, he skipped the minors entirely. Not too many starting pitchers can do that. So his first couple of years were rocky at best, and he still was able to come up with those career averages and totals that are just blowing other people away. 7-time All-Star, 3 Cy Young awards, an MVP, 5-time ERA champion, 3 Triple Crowns. 3 different Triple Crowns as a pitcher is just ridiculous. And this wasn't way back in the 1905s and the 1920s where the game was really starting to develop. This was 50s, 60s. He threw 4 no-hitters and a perfect game. He was the youngest player to ever be inducted into the Hall of Fame. He has more strikeouts than innings pitched. That alone is a very short list. Yeah. Let's just leave it at that.
Really good career for Sandy Koufax. Of course, his name gets dropped in all sorts of movies all the time. Some really, really good movies. So he's kind of an institute of pop culture as well, because of so many of these great actors in our lifetime, people in our lifetime that were growing up when he was pitching in the tail end of his career, when he was in his prime. So Sandy Koufax, another very, very easy choice. We're going to move to a modern player, which is also a pretty easy one because he might have an argument for the greatest left-handed pitcher of all time, like Sandy Koufax. We're talking about Clayton Kershaw, a guy who every time you write him off thinking that he's probably going to be done, he's got to dip down sooner or later. He just doesn't. 206 career wins with the Dodgers, a 2.49 ERA, 1.004 WHIP, which is unbelievable, especially when looking at what Sandy Koufax had in a 1.106. Kershaw, 2,910 strikeouts, only 25 complete games. Again, it's different now than it was back then. Franchise leader in strikeouts, 3rd in wins. Oh, yeah, he's still adding to everything because he's pitching tonight at still an insanely high level of baseball. The dude, we got to watch this guy in his prime, and the things he was doing, just remarkable. The unique delivery, the disgusting curveball, a heater that just gets better as the game goes on. It's really, it's crazy. They're going to retire his number without question. He had a season where he went 21-3 with an 1.77 ERA. That is asinine to think of looking back at it. The things he was doing, unbelievable. And again, this guy just is still pitching at such a high level. He is the face of modern Dodgers baseball. We had to put him on here, especially when he did get the job done and help the Dodgers win a World Series.
Yep. And to add to those incredible and still growing stats, he nabbed 9 All-Star game appearances. He got a Gold Glove, 5 ERA titles, just as many as Koufax, and he's still going. Has a Triple Crown at least, which is even more rare these days. Players are not getting Triple Crowns very often anymore. So to be able to claim, yep, I was the leader in every stat that mattered. Yeah, that's me. That's just insane. 3 Cy Youngs already, a Roberto Clemente Award, and an MVP. He did help with that World Series championship. Isn't known for his strong postseasons, but he knows how to get his team there. That's for sure. And he's just, his above average defense, his pickoff moves, it just seems everything about him. It's like, oh yeah, that'd be nice to have in a pitcher. Oh yeah, that'd be nice to have in our ace. And what I love about he's just a great player and a great human being. I was reading, I'm like, he's got to be making a ton of money, right? Comparatively, no. And he's got 1-year terms the last couple of contracts. And yet he doesn't punish the Dodgers for that. He uses that to say, nope, if I have a 5-6 year contract and I underperform, that is unacceptable to me. I have to earn that money each and every year. So give me that 1-year deal. I'll probably be back next year. You don't have to take it as cold feet. Let me focus on winning that year, earning my money that year, and then let's talk about it again next year. It's such a backwards mentality to most players these days who are like, nope, lock it up, make sure that I can retire and my great great grandkids won't have to work a day in their lives. He seems like a very good person. I haven't met him, but I feel like he'd be okay to have a conversation with.
Play around a golf with. Absolutely. And he's doing
Not
this in
me,
live
but-
ball era. You probably shouldn't. You know what? You're right. That's my. Yeah, no golfing for Jacob. But he's doing this in live ball era. It's an offensive game right now for him to kind of say, no, it's not. We still got some pretty good pitchers. Is insane. And again, he pitches tonight, so these numbers are probably only going to get better after he pitches against the Rockies. So we'll wait and see officially on that. Now we move to number 4, where we have a difference. I went with Don Drysdale for my 4th. The Big D is what Dodgers fans called him. Very beloved when it comes to Dodgers baseball. 14-year career with Brooklyn and Los Angeles. Very pretty tall, honestly. 6'5" is a pretty big body coming at you. Famous for throwing a little too far inside, I guess you could say. Used brushback pitches quite a bit. He hit 154 batters, which is a modern National League record right now. And he always said, if one of my teammates got knocked down, then I knocked down 2 on the other team. So that's an incredible quote that I wanted to start off with before really digging in on this guy. 209 career wins, a 2.95 ERA with the Dodgers, a 1.148 whip, 2,486 strikeouts, 167 complete games, 3rd in franchise history in strikeouts, 2nd in wins, a Hall of Famer, was a no doubt Hall of Famer, won a Cy Young, a 9-time All-Star, 3 World Series championships as well. This guy kind of was a transition from Sandy Koufax, kept the Dodgers relevant, was that face of the pitching rotation. Even though he wasn't always the best pitcher on the staff, he was Mr. Consistency. The Dodgers knew what they were getting for him. Again, a team player. I just love that quote, that he was going to hit 2 if one of his guys got hit. Just Dodgers fans love him. Really was what it came down to, how loved he was by this Dodgers organization. And again, another guy whose career was unfortunately cut short due to the same thing, arthritis in the elbow. So I wish we could have seen him pitch a little bit more, but what Don Drysdale did do was pretty dang good.
Yeah. I debated putting him at number 4. I even had one of those stories that I was reading about him, and I loved it. It was he was in I don't remember the exact numbers. I think it was 44 inning scoreless streak. And he plunked a batter with the bases loaded. Mm-hmm. And the umpire told the batter, no, get back here. You didn't try to get out of the way. He ended up getting that guy to fly out and made it to, I think it was 58 2/3 innings, which was a record at the time in the MLB. I mean, just kind of the Randy Johnson of his day. Like you were worried to get in that batter's box. Not the speed or the size or the mullet, but okay, maybe not Randy Johnson, but scary to go up against, without a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I had to give it to Roy Campanella. There was no question about it. Campy only played 10 years for the Dodgers. And that right there made me realize that this Mount Rushmore is all about short but terrific MLB careers. Every single one of them. He came over from the Negro and the Latin leagues before finally being able to follow Jackie's beachhead into the bigs. He hit 276, 360, 500 with 242 homers, 856 runs batted in, 533 walks, 1,161 hits, and a 41.8 wins above replacement. He was an 11-time All-Star. He only played 10 years, remember? So couple in the same year, pretty cool. 3-time MVP and helped bring home that 55 World Series. He was a phenom behind the dish. He threw out 57% of would-be base robbers. That is the highest in the history of Major League Baseball. And his pitch calling was just excellent. It led to 3 different no-hitters with 2 different pitchers. Magley spoke of his no-no. Sal Magley said, in my no-hitter, I shook off Campy once. He was doing the thinking. He was calling the pitches. Right batter, right situation every single time. All I had to do was check the sign, see if I agreed with it, and then throw. Unfortunately, the year that the Dodgers would have moved to Cali, well, the year that they did move to Cali, his career was cut short. Terrible one-party car accident left him paralyzed from the neck down. He was able to regain some movement later in his life, never able to play again, but still did a lot with the Dodgers afterward. His numbers retired. He was the second black man introduced into the Hall of Fame, right behind Jackie, of course. So I mean, had to give it up to world-class catcher.
Yeah, unbelievable. And that percentage of runner, that's when stolen bases were happening constantly. So to be able to cut down.
Not anymore against him. I was looking at those high percentages. They stopped trying after a while.
Smart. Maybe
Yeah.
Good idea. Yeah. He was definitely on my honorable mentions. Again, a tragic injury or a car accident injured him, ended his career. He could have definitely juiced up those numbers a little bit more had he been able to keep going. He was on my honorable mentions along with Duke Snider, Don Sutton, and I know we're not supposed to do this, but with the field I'm in, had to throw in Vin Scully because he's the second guy I think of when I hear Dodgers. So honorable mention, had to throw him in there, even though we are just supposed to do players.
I did the exact same thing.
Good.
I did over 60 years broadcasting with the team. I don't think people realize he was there in the Brooklyn days.
Yeah.
He was there he is the heart and soul of the Dodgers. He is part of that team's absolute legacy. I mean, we think we're spoiled with our announcers, both past and present, but you don't get better. You just don't. So I had to add him in there with Don Sutton, Duke Snider, Drysdale.
Yeah, this one was a fun one. It honestly didn't turn out to be as hard as I anticipated. There's only one spot up for grabs. So our Mount Rushmores, Jackie Robinson, Sandy Koufax, Clayton Kershaw. I had Don Drysdale as my 4th, and you had Roy Campanella as your 4th. Next Mount Rushmore, we're getting to the nitty-gritty. It'll be the Phillies. This one's going to be very tough as well. I always tease about the one popping into my head. I only have one that's really popping into my head. So this is going to be one we're going to have to kind of dig deep to see, really crunch the numbers, see who will be the top 4 for the Phillies. That'll be coming up on the next episode of the Kingsmen Sports Podcast. We only got one thing left to do. It's time to draft our teams for the month of July in the MLB. We'll tell you the little caveat we're going with coming up next here on the Kingsmen Sports Podcast.
High school sports fans, relive your favorite moments. Just click the shopping cart below the video player to get your digital copy today.
Welcome back to the Kingsmen Sports Podcast. We're going to wrap up this episode number 33 with our July MLB teams draft. We didn't do this in June. Again, things got so chaotic. In May, though, Jacob, I snuck one out against you. Barely got the win. A rainout might have affected all this, and you'd be getting the win. But this time, it benefited me. So I win an absolute
I'll recap just so they understand how close this was, because we both picked teams that looking back were like, so I had the Mets, which were only a game under 500 in May. The Padres, not so good. Rays, solid. Mariners, 17-11. That was surprising in May when we were looking back at their 500 record. And the Dodgers doing solid numbers. So you had the Braves, a game above 500. Astros had a solid month. Guardians, just shy of 500. Yankees had a very, very good month. And the Marlins, just shy of 500. So my win-loss tally, 76-64. Yours was 76-63. So same number of wins, 1 loss difference. I think there was a rain out that you definitely would have lost there. So
maybe my team would have won, and I would have been a game.
No, it was a game where my team won and your team lost.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's my apologies. I did.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this one. Since I won last month, I'm just going to tell you, I want to pick first.
Okay.
I want to pick the first team. Caveat, we haven't done any research for this. We have not looked at schedules. We have no idea who plays who. We're just going to pick what we think are the 5 teams we trust. I'm going to start. Again, this is a snake draft, so I'll make a pick. Jacob will end up making two back to me, and so on and so forth. Yep. First overall pick, I'm going the Atlanta Braves. I already kind of teased that I think they're the best team in baseball, so I got to take them. I think they're just going to get stronger and stronger as the season goes on. Give me Atlanta.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to go with the Dodgers. I still feel they're going to right the ship very, very easily. I mean, they're already 9 games above 500, so how much writing do you need? But they're going to do all right this month, I bet. And then I'm going to steal Miami from you because I know they were somewhere on your list. Yeah.
Take Miami. All right. I'll let you have Miami because I got a different dark horse this month. Okay. I got a team that I don't think you're going after. I'm not going to pick them yet, though. I'm going to go ahead and take the Baltimore Orioles. I think now's a good time for Baltimore to make their move. I think they're going to be refreshed coming out of the All-Star break as well, these young guys. I think they're going to be ready to rock and roll. They might go get a pitcher, hopefully earlier in the month than later at the deadline to help me out a little bit there. But I will go ahead and snag up the Baltimore Orioles.
Okay.
Next one. Now this is where things get a little bit tough because those are the 2 that I really wanted. And of course, I had my eye on the Dodgers as one of those teams I really wanted as well. I trashed this team last month saying that I didn't believe in them. I'm going to go ahead and take the Texas Rangers.
Yeah.
I think
smart.
Warm weather in Texas. I know they kind of play in a dome. The teams aren't going to exactly have fun playing there. I think teams come in there feeling a little bit sluggish. I think the Rangers are a really good offense as well. Give me Texas.
Yep. Smart. All right. I am a little worried about this team, but I'm going to pick the Blue Jays.
Ooh.
I think they'll have a nice month of July. And then I was just saying that they couldn't keep this up, but give me those Red Hot Reds.
Oh, that's not where I thought you were going at all with that one.
Oh, no.
I had already typed out Arizona. I had already typed it out.
The even readier and hottier.
The readier and hottier. All right.
Yep.
So you've got 4 teams. I've got 3 right now. So I get to make my final 2. I'll save the surprise one for last. I'm going to do something I normally don't do, and I'm going to take teams in the same division. I'm going to go ahead and jump on the Houston Astros.
Okay.
I think it's a do or die month for them. And worst case scenario is they die, which is good news for the Mariners. So it's a win-win really for me. So I'm going to go ahead and take Houston.
I applaud
Important
that.
month coming up for him.
Yeah.
Yordan Alvarez will hopefully be back as well, back to what we know he can do. And my last team, I kind of hyped them up as I've got some confidence in them. Another team that I've already taken a team in their division. I'm going to take the Philadelphia Phillies. This is my dark horse, the Phillies. Okay. Give me the Phillies.
Your dark horse last year.
And they made the World Series, so it worked well. So fingers crossed we can do that again. Again, I don't think they're going to the World Series, but I'll go ahead and take the Phillies. I kind of talked about. Okay. I believe in them. I think this division's going to start falling apart, minus the Braves. Right there to kind of pick up the scraps, I think will be the Philadelphia Phillies. So I'll take them as my fifth and final team.
Okay. For my fifth and final team, I feel obligated, to be honest, especially seeing what they did last month. And since you picked two of their division rivals, I has to give me the Mariners again.
It was surprising to see how good they did.
I know, because then at some point you're like, oh, Mariners are playing Texas. I have to root for Jacob's team right now. There's just no way around it. So yeah. Well, give me the Mariners and give me another, not even 17-11. I want more wins than 17. Give me 20 wins in July. And that's hard with an all-star break. So
I was going to say, I'll take 20 wins. Sign me up for that
Last year in July, what did they do?
They were hot. They had a 14-game win streak.
Yep.
Started in June, though. Maybe it's already started. Maybe it got underway yesterday.
That would be
on the anniversary of it starting last year, so we'll find out. So Jacob, Dodgers, Marlins, Blue Jays, Reds, Mariners. I've got the Braves, Orioles, Rangers, Astros, and Phillies. Hopefully, I hope the Mariners just run the table and everyone else on your side just crumbles, so I can still get the win while the Mariners get the wins. We'll see how it all plays out. So that'll be coming up for the month of July. We'll see you can pull this one out. That'll do it for episode number 33 of the Kingsmen Sports Podcast. It won't be as long until the next episode than it was the gap between this one and the previous one. We promise that. We'll probably have, hopefully, an all-star special coming up. We'll look at the rosters, have some snubs. I'm very excited for the all-star game this year as I get to go. I'll be there for the home run. 10 rows up in right field. I'm in home run territory.
Really?
It's gonna be
That'll be
blast.
Fun. Maybe not for Julio, but you'll be there.
Julio can hit one to me. I'm okay with that. But that'll do it for this episode. Again, all-star special coming up. We should have rosters by the time the next episode comes out. We'll have the Phillies, Mount Rushmore. Something else will happen in the world of baseball. And maybe we'll even talk a little bit of football. I'm not going to make any promises. Season's coming up, though, so we have to start maybe looking at that. That'll be coming up on the Felix Hernandez episode next time on the Kingsmen Sports Podcast.
You couldn't even wait for it. You just
couldn't wait.